On the morning of March 8th, 2015, Miguel Hernandez woke up at 4:30 in the morning in the small studio apartment where he lived with his wife Rosa and their two children, Daniel, who was 9 years old, and little Isabella, who was just 5. The alarm didn't even go off. Miguel had been awake for over an hour, staring at the cracked ceiling, mentally calculating how much money he had left hidden in the coffee can behind the microwave. $347. That was all the Hernandez family had in the world. The apartment was located in East Palo Alto, California, in a building on Runnymede Street where the walls were so thin you could hear every conversation from the neighbors. From there, Miguel could hear the constant noise of Highway 101, the endless flow of cars that started before dawn and only stopped after midnight. It was the sound of Silicon Valley working, producing, growing. Miguel was on the outside of that growth, looking in from afar, trying to find a crack to enter. At 36 years old, Miguel carried on his face the marks of someone who had always worked hard. Hands calloused from carrying weight, shoulders bent from spending hours hunched over, eyes tired from sleeping little. He had started working at 12 years old in Oaxaca, Mexico, helping his father in the fields, earning $5 a day. At 15, he crossed the border with his uncle, walking 3 days through the desert with just a backpack and 2 bottles of water. At 17, he was working in a car wash in San Jose, earning $6 an hour under the table. The dream was to have his own business someday, to be his own boss, not depend on anyone. But life had other plans. At 24, he met Rosa at a quinceañera party in East San Jose. She was 21, working as a cashier at a Mexican grocery store on Story Road, and living with her mother in a small apartment near the BART station. They started dating. 7 months later, Rosa was pregnant with Daniel. They got married in a simple ceremony at City Hall in San Jose, with only 8 guests. The party was at Rosa's mother's apartment with homemade tamales, rice, beans, and Jarritos sodas. Miguel got a job at a small auto repair shop in Redwood City, earning $12 an hour. Rosa kept working until her 7th month of pregnancy, then had to stop. The money barely covered expenses. Rent for the studio, $1,200. PG&E electricity bill, $95. Gas every month for Miguel's beat-up Honda Civic, $80. Transportation for Miguel, $120 monthly for bus passes. Diapers, formula, food. Nothing was left over. Many times there wasn't even enough for the whole month. Daniel was born on June 15th, 2006. It was an emergency C-section at Stanford Hospital. Miguel waited 13 hours in the waiting room, sitting on a hard plastic chair, praying quietly in Spanish for everything to turn out okay. When the nurse finally called his name and said he had a healthy boy and Rosa was fine, Miguel cried right there, in front of everyone. He didn't care. He was a father. He had a son. He had a family to support. The first years were very difficult. Miguel worked from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, 6 days a week. He took 2 buses to get there, 2 to get back. He left home at 5:30 in the morning, returned at 9 at night. He only saw his son awake on Sundays. Rosa took care of Daniel alone in an exhausting routine of diapers, bottles, nighttime crying. They lived in a single 400-square-foot studio with a queen bed, an improvised crib made from a donated bassinet, a 2-burner hot plate, and an old refrigerator that made noise all night. In 2009, Isabella came along. Not planned, but very much loved. The apartment became even more cramped. Miguel got a better job at a larger shop in Mountain View, earning $15 an hour. It seemed like a lot, but everything in the Bay Area was expensive. Rosa tried to do some cleaning jobs, but it was impossible with 2 small children. Her mother helped when she could, but she also had her limitations. It was in 2011 that everything started to fall apart. The shop where Miguel worked closed its doors overnight. The owner had debts with suppliers, with the IRS, with everyone. One morning, Miguel arrived for work and found the gate locked with a chain and padlock, a notice from the court taped to the door. 4 months of back pay he never received. He filed a labor claim, but the process would take years. He found work as an independent mechanic, doing repairs on cars for acquaintances. He worked on the street without his own shop, using borrowed tools. He earned when he could find clients. There were weeks he made $300. There were weeks he made 40. The uncertainty was the worst. Not knowing if the next day he would have work, if he would have money to buy food, if he could pay rent. In 2012, he tried working as a handyman, doing odd jobs through Craigslist ads. He bought a used pickup truck, a Ford F-150 from 1998, paying in 36 installments of $280. He worked 9 months doing small repairs, painting, hauling junk. He woke up at 5 in the morning, came back at 11 at night. He made on average $40 to $60 per job. When the economy was bad, jobs decreased. When it was really bad, there were no jobs at all. He had no fixed salary, no health insurance, nothing guaranteed. It was during that period that he had the accident, a rainy Thursday in November. Miguel was driving back from a job in Palo Alto when a Tesla suddenly braked in front of him on University Avenue. Miguel tried to brake. The truck skidded on the wet pavement. He crashed into the back of the Tesla. The truck's front end was completely smashed. Miguel had a fractured wrist, 3 cracked ribs. He was taken by ambulance to Stanford Emergency Room. He was out of work for 21 days, then another 45 days with limited movement. The truck was totaled. Insurance wouldn't cover it because he had only liability. He had to sell it as scrap for $800. A truck that had cost him $10,000. That's when he started going into debt. He borrowed from a payday lender, a place on El Camino Real that charged 25% interest monthly. He borrowed $3,000 to pay overdue rent and buy food. In 3 months, the debt had become $5,000. In 6 months, $8,000. The interest grew like a snowball rolling downhill. Rosa started cleaning houses in Menlo Park and Atherton 4 times a week. She earned $100 per house, but spent $35 on bus fare. Her mother watched the kids. Daniel was 7 years old, Isabella 3. Rosa's money barely bought basic food, rice, beans, chicken when there was. Miguel's money all went to pay the payday lender and overdue bills. They lived at the absolute limit of poverty, that limit where any unexpected event can be a catastrophe. At the end of 2013, Miguel had to sell the few tools he had to pay the lender. He sold everything for $1,200, tools that had cost him $4,000. He still owed $3,500 to the lender. He promised to pay in 4 months. He went back to working as an independent mechanic on the street, but now without his own tools, borrowing them, depending on other mechanics' goodwill. Many clients stopped calling him because he took too long to arrive, or because he didn't inspire confidence without his own tools. It was at that rock bottom that he woke up that morning of March 8th, 2015. He had $347 saved. Rent was due in 2 days. It was $1,200. He had nowhere to get it. He had already asked for advances from all the clients he could. He had already borrowed from all his acquaintances. He had already pawned his father's watch, his wedding ring that was gold-plated, everything that had any value. Rosa was still sleeping when Miguel got out of bed. He went to the kitchen, turned on the hot plate, put water on to boil for coffee. He had half a can of Folgers coffee on the shelf, a bag of sugar halfway done, 6-day-old donuts in a plastic bag. That was the family's breakfast. He looked at the coffee can hidden behind the microwave where he kept the money, $347. He wanted to cry, but he didn't cry. He had no more tears left. He was too tired to cry. That's when he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Rosa, in an old nightgown, hair tied in a bun, eyes swollen from sleep. She hugged Miguel from behind, rested her head on his back. They stood there, embraced, without saying anything. They didn't need to say it. They knew exactly what the other was feeling: fear, exhaustion, desperation, but also something more, something that kept them both standing: hope, a small hope, stubborn, that insisted on not dying. "Miguel, you need to try again," Rosa said quietly. "You're good at what you do. Everyone whose car you fix comes back to you. The problem is you don't have anywhere to work, you don't have structure, you need your own shop." Miguel laughed without joy. "A shop? With what money, Rosa?" "We barely have enough to eat." Rosa pulled back a little, held Miguel's face with both hands, forced him to look into her eyes. "Then we find money. We borrow. We do whatever is necessary. But you can't keep going like this. You're going to die working on the street. And then what? What's going to happen to the kids? To me?" Miguel felt something different in that moment. It wasn't just fear or desperation. It was a decision, a determination. Rosa was right. He couldn't keep going like this. He had to risk it. He had to really try. He had to build something, even if it was from absolute zero, even if it was with his own hands. That morning, Miguel didn't go looking for clients. He went to a small community bank in Redwood City that he had heard about, one that gave microloans to immigrants. Mission Asset Fund, it was called. He arrived at 9 in the morning when they opened. A counselor named Maria listened to his story, asked for documents, did an analysis. 15 days later, she called with the answer: "Your loan has been approved, Mr. Hernandez. $8,000, 36 monthly payments of $255. Miguel almost couldn't believe it. With the $8,000 from the loan plus the $347 he had saved, he would have $8,347. It wasn't enough to open a shop, but it was enough to start properly. The first thing he did was buy tools. He went to a professional tool store in San Jose on Monterey Road. He spent $4,200 on a complete set of wrenches, sockets, pliers, screwdrivers, hammers, hydraulic jack stands, multimeter basic OBD scanner, real tools, professional ones, not those cheap things that broke in a week. Then he went to a print shop in Redwood City and had 1,000 business cards made. $120. Simple card, white background, black letters, Miguel Hernandez, automotive mechanic, mobile service, all makes, phone 650-555-0189. He also had 800 flyers made, $95. With the remaining money, he bought a large metal toolbox to store everything, some plastic tarps to knot dirty clients' driveways, work coveralls, gloves, and a heavy-duty hand truck to transport tools on public transit. He spent another $700. He had $2,232 left. He hid it in the coffee can at home. It was for emergencies and for the first loan payments. The next day, he woke up at 4 in the morning and went to distribute flyers. He chose the Redwood City area, where he had worked when younger and knew a little. He spent from 5 to 9 in the morning handing out flyers at bus stops, traffic lights, at the Caltrain station entrance. Many people threw the flyer on the ground without even looking. Some looked and put it in their pocket. A few read it carefully and asked questions. He went home, showered, ate something and started calling all his old clients. He explained that now he had professional tools, that he could do any type of service, that the price was fair and the work guaranteed. Some hung up on him. Others promised to call back but never did. 5 clients scheduled service for that week. The first service was on a Wednesday. Oil and filter change on a Toyota Camry 2008. The client lived in Menlo Park. Miguel took 3 buses, carrying the hand truck with tools. He arrived at the address at 2 in the afternoon. The client, a man about 50 years old named John, looked at Miguel with suspicion. "You're going to do the work right here on the street?" "Yes, sir," Miguel responded. "I have all the necessary tools. I do the service here, clean everything when I'm done. It stays just like it was." "And how much do you charge?" "Oil and filter change, $75. Parts separate." John thought for a moment. "At the shop, they charge me $95. "Okay, do it." Miguel opened the cart, spread the tarp on the ground, positioned the jack, lifted the car. He worked calmly, carefully, as if it were the most important car in the world. He changed the oil filter, changed the air filter, checked all fluid levels, checked tire pressure, cleaned everything. It took an hour and 45 minutes. When he finished, the driveway was clean, the car was perfect. John started the car, drove around the block, came back. He got out of the car, smiling. "That's really good work, Miguel. Really good. You're a real professional." He took out his wallet, pulled out a $100 bill. "Keep the change, and call me in about 3 months for the next service." Miguel left there with $95 in his pocket. The client paid labor. He bought the materials beforehand with his own money, and a feeling of victory in his chest. He had done it. He had done professional work, and the client was satisfied. It was just the beginning, but it was a beginning. In the following days, he did 6 more services. He made $320 net profit that week. It wasn't much, but it was more than he used to make. And most importantly, 4 of the 6 clients asked for his number to recommend to friends. At the end of the month, Miguel had done 26 services. He had made $1,860 profit. He paid the $255 to Mission Asset Fund, paid rent, bought food. He had $75 left over. It wasn't much, but for the first time in years, something was left over. Rosa noticed the change in Miguel. He was more animated, more confident. He got up early without complaining, worked all day with energy, came home tired but satisfied. It was different from the exhaustion before, that desperate exhaustion of someone who saw no way out. Now, it was the exhaustion of someone building something. In May, Miguel did 34 services, profit of $2,300. In June, 41 services, $3,100. Word of mouth was working. Satisfied clients recommended others. The phone started ringing more frequently. Miguel had to start writing down services in a small notebook to keep track. It was in July that something happened that completely changed the direction of the business. Miguel was doing a brake pad replacement on a Honda Accord 2010 at a client's house in Palo Alto. The client, a man about 40 years old named Mark, was a software engineer at Facebook. He stood watching Miguel work, impressed with the organization, cleanliness, attention to detail. When Miguel finished, Mark asked, "How long have you been working like this, mobile service?" "About 5 months, Miguel answered. "And how many regular clients do you have?" Regular, about 30, but I'm getting more every month." Mark was thoughtful for a few moments. Then he spoke. "Look, I have an idea for you. Have you thought about offering a maintenance plan? Like this. The client pays a fixed monthly amount and you do all scheduled maintenance on the car during the year. Oil change every 5,000 miles, brake inspection, filters, everything." Miguel had never thought of that. "Maintenance plan? How does it work?" Mark explained. "Look, you calculate how many services a car needs per year. Let's say it's 4 services, more or less. Each service you charge about $100 labor, plus parts. It averages around $150 per service, $600 a year. You divide it into 12 payments. The person pays $50 a month. For you, it's good because you have guaranteed fixed income. For the client, it's good because they don't have to worry you go and do the service at the right time. And best of all, you create a bond with the client. They won't change mechanics because they're already paying the plan." Miguel was silent, processing the information. It was brilliant, simple but brilliant. Why hadn't he thought of that before? "Do you work in marketing?" Miguel asked. "No, software engineering," Mark answered, smiling. "But in tech, we're always creating solutions for problems. And this is a solution. Want to try it? I'll sign up for the first plan with you. $50 a month, you take care of my car all year." Miguel closed the deal right there. His first monthly plan client. He left Mark's house euphoric. He called Rosa from a payphone on the corner. He still didn't have his own cell phone. He used an old prepaid phone Rosa's mother lent him. He told her the whole idea. Rosa got excited too. "It's perfect, Miguel. You have to offer this to all your clients." And that's what Miguel did. He called the 30 regular clients he had, explained the plan. 18 accepted immediately. 18 times $50 per month, $900 guaranteed fixed income. Plus the one-off services he continued doing. In August, Miguel made $3,900. It was more money than he had ever made in his life working honestly. With the extra money, Miguel did two things. First, he bought his own cell phone, a basic Nokia with T-Mobile prepaid. Now he had a professional number. He no longer depended on the borrowed phone. Second, he started saving money to buy a used van. He wasn't going to keep working depending on public transportation. He needed mobility. In September, 22 more clients signed the maintenance plan. 40 clients on the plan, $2,000 fixed per month, plus one-off services. Miguel was working 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Exhausting, but it was working. In October, something significant happened. Miguel was doing a service on a Ford F-150 2012 at a client's house in Los Altos when the neighbor appeared. He also wanted service on his car, and he asked, "Don't you have a shop? It would be easier to bring the car to you." Miguel explained that he didn't have a shop, he only worked mobile. The neighbor made a disappointed face. "Oh, that's too bad. I prefer to take the car to a shop. I feel safer." Miguel lost that service. And in the following days, he realized he was losing others too. Some people really preferred a physical shop, something tangible, visible, that conveyed credibility. As professional as Miguel was, and as impeccable as his work was, working on the street had its limitations. That's when Miguel started thinking seriously about opening a real shop. It was no longer just a distant dream. It was a business necessity. He started doing the math. How much would it cost? Where could it be? How would he get the money? He talked to Rosa. She supported him. He talked to some trusted clients, asked for opinions. Everyone supported him. One of the clients, an accountant named Fernando, even offered to help. "Look, Miguel, to open a small shop, you're going to need at least $30,000 minimum. Rent for the space, basic renovation, permits, equipment, initial parts inventory. It's money, but you already have a client base. That's worth a lot. If you open a shop, your clients will migrate there. And you'll get other new clients who don't accept mobile service. $30,000. Miguel had saved $7,400. He needed $22,600 more. Even working 14 hours a day, it would take months to save up, and the longer it took, the more potential clients he would lose. That's when Fernando, the accountant, made a suggestion. "Look, Miguel, there's a microloan program from Acción for small entrepreneurs. You can borrow up to $25,000, pay over 3 years. Interest rates are reasonable. It's a non-profit program. Worth trying." Miguel didn't even know that existed. Microcredit for entrepreneurs. He went to an Acción office in San Jose the next day. The loan officer listened to his story, asked for documents, did an analysis. 25 days later, she called with the answer. "Your loan has been approved, Mr. Hernandez. $25,000, 36 monthly payments of $810. Miguel almost couldn't believe it. With the $25,000 from Acción, plus the $7,400 he had saved, he would have $32,400. Enough to open the shop. Enough, and then some. He started looking for a place to rent. It needed to be in a strategic location, easy access, with traffic. After 4 weeks searching, he found a small garage in East Palo Alto on a busy street near University Avenue. 600 square feet, high door, good ceiling height, 3-phase power. Rent, $2,400 per month. It was expensive, but the location was excellent. He signed the contract. 3 months deposit plus first month. 9,600. He had 22,800 left. He went to a used equipment store in Oakland and bought a 2-post hydraulic lift for 7,000, a workbench for 800, a large rolling tool chest for 2,000, a used tire machine for 3,500. He had 9,500 left. He painted the shop himself, with Rosa's help. White on the walls, blue on the door. He had a sign made for the facade. Hernandez Auto Repair, General Mechanics, Maintenance, Service. $700. He bought initial inventory of oils, filters, brake pads, fluids, bulbs, most common parts. 4,500. He had 4,300 left for working capital and emergencies. Hernandez Auto Repair was inaugurated on January 12, 2016. No party, no event. Miguel simply opened the door at 7 in the morning and started working. The first client was Mark, the one who had given him the maintenance plan idea. He brought the Accord for service. Miguel did the job with the same care as always, now using the lift, with space, with comfort, with professional structure. In the first days, traffic was slow. Maintenance plan clients who came for scheduled services, but few new clients. Miguel got worried. Had he made the right decision? Would people trust a new shop with no name, no tradition? The answer came in the second week. An Uber driver who was waiting for rides near the shop needed to replace a belt that was making noise. He didn't know Miguel, had never heard of the shop, but he was in a hurry and the shop was right there. He came in. Miguel treated him well, gave a fair estimate, changed the belt in 40 minutes, charged an honest price. The driver was so satisfied that he came back 3 days later with 5 other Uber drivers. All needed some repair. That's when Miguel realized. Uber and Lyft drivers were the perfect audience. They worked a lot with their cars, needed constant maintenance, needed fast service, fair price, reliable mechanic, and there were many, so many. In that area of East Palo Alto, there were rideshare drivers on every corner. Miguel started doing targeted work. He printed new flyers specific for rideshare drivers. Hernandez Auto Repair, rideshare specialist, express service, fair price, driver discount. He hired a kid from the neighborhood to distribute flyers at rideshare waiting spots. $30 a day. It worked. In 2 weeks, he had 25 rideshare drivers as regular clients. In a month, 60. The shop was always full. Miguel was working from 6 in the morning to 9 at night, Monday through Saturday. There came a point where he couldn't handle it alone. That's when he hired his first employee. Carlos, 26 years old, had studied automotive at a community college but had no practical experience. Miguel trained him. $14 an hour, under the table for now. He didn't have the capacity to pay all the taxes yet. Carlos was fast, smart, learned easily. In 4 weeks, he was already doing basic services alone. With Carlos helping, productivity doubled. They could serve more clients, do more services. Revenue grew. In April of 2016, the shop billed $15,000. Net profit, $6,500. In May, $19,000. Profit, $8,200. In June, $23,000. Profit, $10,000. Miguel started paying his debts. He paid what he owed to Mission Asset Fund and Axiom. They were months of heavy installments, but he managed to settle. The counselors were impressed. "Miguel, you're one of our biggest success stories," Maria from Mission Asset Fund told him. "Most people take 3 years to pay off an $8,000 loan. You did it in 14 months. With debts paid and the business stabilized, Miguel started thinking about growing more. The shop was always full. There were days he had to turn away clients because he couldn't handle it. He needed more space, more equipment, more people. In September of 2016, he rented the bay next door, another 600 square feet. Now he had 1,200 square feet. He bought another lift, more tools, more inventory. He hired another mechanic, a man of 50 years old named Don Roberto, who had 30 years of experience, $18 an hour. Now, with all taxes paid properly, Miguel had formed an LLC. With 2 mechanics working and Miguel coordinating, the shop served on average 35 cars per day. Quick services, oil changes, filters, brake pads, belts, bulbs, medium services, suspension, full brakes, clutch. They didn't do heavy services like engine rebuilds. They didn't have equipment for that yet, but they did practically everything else. Word of mouth kept growing. Rideshare drivers recommended to other drivers. Maintenance plan clients recommended to family members. The shop gained a reputation for being good, fast and honest. In an area full of dishonest shops that invented problems to charge more, Hernandez Auto Repair stood out for being transparent. Miguel always showed the old part he had replaced, always explained what he was doing, always gave a warranty on the work. In December of 2016, Hernandez Auto Repair closed the year with total revenue of $198,000. Net profit for the year, $67,000. Miguel had taken about $5,000 per month for himself in the last months. In the first ones, he had taken less. Rosa had stopped cleaning houses and now handled the administrative part of the shop, client scheduling, accounts payable, accounts receivable. She earned $3,000 per month. The Hernandez family had changed their life. In March of 2017, they managed to rent a real house. 3 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, bathroom, laundry room, small yard. In the Redwood City neighborhood, not too far from the shop. Rent of $2,600. Expensive, but now they could afford it. Daniel was 11 years old, Isabella 7. For the first time in their lives, each had their own room. Miguel and Rosa cried on moving day. They were leaving the cramped studio, that tight, humid, dark place where they had lived years of hardship. They were going to a real house, with windows that got sunlight, with a bathroom that wasn't shared, with a kitchen where you could prepare a real meal. It was an immense victory, but Miguel knew he couldn't stop. The business was good, but it was vulnerable. It depended too much on him. If he got sick, if he got hurt, if something happened, everything would collapse. He needed to structure better, professionalize, grow sustainably. In April of 2017, Miguel did something that would completely change the trajectory of Hernandez Auto Repair. He sought out a business consultant. An acquaintance of a client had recommended a man named David, who gave consulting to small businesses. He charged $1,500 per month, minimum 6 months contract. It was expensive, but Miguel decided to invest. David went to the shop, spent the whole day observing how everything worked. He talked to Miguel, to the mechanics, to clients. He wrote everything down in a notebook. At the end of the day, he sat with Miguel and went straight to the point. Miguel, you have a good business. You work well. You have loyal clients. You have a reputation. But you're doing everything by feel without method. You don't have adequate financial control. You don't have defined processes. You don't have correct pricing. You're leaving money on the table. Miguel got defensive. What do you mean? I control everything. I know how much comes in and goes out. David smiled. You know more or less, but you don't know exactly. You don't separate fixed costs from variable. You don't calculate profit margin by type of service. You have no idea which service gives you more profit and which less. You don't have an inventory system. You don't have performance indicators. You're running everything on feeling. That works up to a point. But if you want to really grow, you need management. It was a punch in the gut, but Miguel recognized that David was right. He really didn't have detailed control. He knew he was making money, but he didn't know exactly how much on each service, how much he was spending in each area, where he could improve. Over the next 6 months, David implemented a series of changes at Hernandez Auto Repair. He created a detailed financial control spreadsheet, separating all revenues and expenses by category. He created an inventory control spreadsheet to know exactly how many parts they had, when to buy, when they were running low. He created a pricing table based on service time plus materials with adequate profit margin for each type of service. He created indicators: how many cars served per day, average ticket per car, client return rate, satisfaction, measured by simple survey via text message. With these controls, Miguel discovered important things. He discovered he was charging too cheap on some services and losing money. He discovered he was buying parts from the wrong supplier, paying more than he should. He discovered that Monday and Tuesday were slow traffic days, and he could run promotions those days to attract more clients. He discovered that 64% of clients returned in less than 4 months, which was excellent. With the changes implemented, the shop became more efficient. Profit increased without increasing revenue. In November of 2017, for the first time, the shop had net profit of $12,000 in 1 month. Miguel took $9,000 for himself, left $3,000 in the company to reinvest. It was during that period that Miguel had an ambitious idea. What if he opened a second shop in another area, replicating the model that was working? He talked to David. The consultant was cautious. It's possible, but it's risky. You'd have to find a manager you trust to run the second shop. You'd have to have capital for the initial investment. And you'd have to have structure to manage 2 businesses at the same time. It's not simple. Miguel spent months thinking. Was he ready? Could he do it? The answer came when Don Roberto, the most experienced mechanic, approached him with a proposal. Miguel, I really like working here. You're fair, you pay on time, you treat everyone well. I was thinking, what if I became a partner? Not a partner like half the business, but like I put in work and some money, you give me a small percentage, and I help open new shops. I know a lot of people in the industry. I can bring clients, I can manage a second location. Miguel was surprised but interested. He talked to Rosa, he talked to David. Everyone thought it made sense. Roberto was trustworthy, had experience, knew the business, and most importantly, he wanted to grow together. In February of 2018, Miguel and Roberto formalized a partnership. Roberto put in $25,000, money he had saved his whole life, and received 20% of the company. Miguel kept 80%. The company was reorganized as a proper corporation. Corporate name, Hernandez Auto Repair Inc. With Roberto's $25,000 plus $35,000 Miguel had saved, they opened the second shop. This time in a more distant neighborhood, San Jose, where rent was cheaper but client potential was high. They followed the same recipe: small space, basic equipment, focus on quick services, honest service, fair price. Roberto went to manage the new location. Miguel continued at the first. They hired 2 more mechanics, 1 for each location. The structure grew. Expenses too. In the first month, both shops together had profit of only $4,000. Miguel got worried. Had they grown too fast? But David, the consultant, reassured him. It's normal. Every expansion has an adjustment period. The second shop needs to build a name, build clientele. Give it about 3 months and you'll see the difference. And that's exactly what happened. The second shop started slow but gained traction. In May, it was already serving 30 cars per day. In July, 40. In September, it was practically at the same level as the first shop. Both shops together billed in 2018 $540,000, net profit $158,000. Miguel took $126,400, his 80% share. Roberto took $31,600, his 20% share. They left $40,000 in the company. Miguel's life had completely changed. He now had 2 cars, a Honda Accord 2017 for family use and a Ford F-150 2018 for work. He had bought his own house, financed over 30 years, but his own, in Redwood City. Simple house, 3 bedrooms, garage for 2 cars, small backyard. But it was theirs. They no longer paid rent to anyone. Daniel was 13, doing well in school. Isabella 9, a smart girl who loved to draw. Rosa had gone back to school, taking business administration classes at Cañada College at night. Miguel had bought health insurance for the whole family. Not the expensive kind, it was Kaiser Basic, but it was something. They no longer depended only on emergency rooms, but Miguel wasn't satisfied with stopping there. He saw that the model was working. 2 shops, both profitable, both growing. Why not 3? Why not 5? Why not 10? In 2019, they opened the 3rd shop, this time in Daly City, neighboring city. Higher rent, but clientele with greater purchasing power. They invested $45,000. They hired a manager from there, a mechanic recommended by a client. The shop took a while to take off, but after 6 months it was billing well. In 2020, they opened the 4th and 5th shops, one in South San Francisco, another in Hayward. They started using an interesting strategy. They opened the shop in a working-class neighborhood with high density of older cars and ride-share drivers. Competitive price, fast service, honesty. The recipe worked everywhere. At that point, Miguel no longer worked as a mechanic. He was an entrepreneur. He spent the day visiting shops, talking to managers, checking service quality, monitoring numbers. He had hired an accountant to manage all the financial and tax part. He had hired a lawyer to handle the labor and contracts part. He had a small but professional structure. Revenue exploded. 5 shops together, 2020, $1,800,000. Profit, $490,000. Miguel pocketed $392,000, his share. Roberto pocketed $98,000. They left $120,000 in the company to invest in new expansions. Miguel was making more in 1 year than he had made in his entire life, up to age 36. He bought a better house in San Carlos, in a gated community, 4 bedrooms, pool, barbecue area, $1,200,000 financed. He changed cars, bought a Jeep Grand Cherokee 2020. He enrolled the kids in private school. But what gave Miguel the most pride wasn't material things. It was the fact that he had created jobs. 5 shops, each with 4 to 7 employees. 43 families living off the business he had started with $8,000 borrowed. 43 families with salary, with benefits, with paid vacation, with Christmas bonus. In 2021 and 2022, they opened 10 more shops, 15 total, spread across the Bay Area. Revenue 2022, $4,600,000. Profit $1,200,000. Miguel pocketed $960,000. Roberto $240,000. It was in 2023 that Miguel had the idea that would definitively transform the business. He was in a meeting with all the shop managers when one of them complained, "Miguel, our big problem is parts. We buy from distributors, they put high markup. If we bought direct from factory, we'd save a lot. But no factory sells to small shops. They only sell to distributors or to large shops." Miguel thought about it. 15 shops. Together, they bought a significant amount of parts per month. What if they created their own distribution company? That bought direct from factory and supplied the 15 shops. It would save money for the shops and could also sell to other small shops in the region, becoming a separate business. He talked to Roberto. He liked the idea. They talked to the accountant. She did the calculations. It was viable. They would need a large warehouse to store parts, an inventory management system, a salesperson, a delivery driver. Initial investment, $150,000. They created Hernandez Auto Parts Distribution LLC. They rented a 10,000-square-foot warehouse in Newark. They bought a delivery van. They hired 4 employees. They started negotiating direct with manufacturers: Bosch, NGK, Monroe, Moog, AC Delco. Since they bought large volume for 15 shops, they got very good prices. The distribution company started supplying only their own shops. But Miguel had the idea to offer to competing shops too. He went personally to 40 small shops in the region and made the proposal. I sell original parts at distributor prices, but I deliver same day. No shipping charge, no minimum order. You call in the morning, I deliver in the afternoon. 32 of the 40 shops accepted. The distribution company started growing. In 6 months, it supplied 90 shops. In a year, 160. The distribution profit was smaller than the shop profit, but volume made up for it. 2023, revenue from 15 shops plus distribution, $7,800,000. Profit, $2,100,000. Miguel, with his 80% of profit, $1,680,000 in 1 year. In June of 2024, a proposal appeared that Miguel never imagined he would receive. A large automotive sector group, which had a chain of dealerships and authorized service centers, wanted to buy Hernandez Auto Repair Inc.'s proposal, $65 million for the entire company. Miguel was in shock. $65 million for a company that had started in East Palo Alto with $347 in a coffee can. He talked to everyone involved. Roberto was in favor of selling. He was tired, wanted to enjoy life. He was 58 years old, had worked his whole life, thought it was time to stop. The investors they had brought on in 2022 were also in favor. They had tripled their investment in less than 2 years. It was an excellent result. Miguel was torn. On one hand, $65 million was a fortune, more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. On the other hand, the company was his baby. He had built it brick by brick, client by client, shop by shop. Selling was like giving up a dream. It was Rosa who put things in perspective. Miguel, you already achieved the dream. You built an empire from nothing. You changed the life of our family, our children, dozens of employees. You proved everything you had to prove. Now it's time to enjoy. Daniel is going to start college next year. Isabella is growing up. I want to travel with you, see the world, enjoy what we built together. You don't need to work 14 hours a day anymore. You already won. Miguel understood. Rosa was right. He had fulfilled his mission. He had gone from absolute poverty and built genuine wealth. Not by luck, not by inheritance, not by scheme, by work, strategy, persistence, vision. In November of 2024, they signed the contract. $65 million for Hernandez Auto Repair Inc., including all 15 shops and the distribution company. Miguel received $52 million, his 80%. Roberto received $13 million, his 20%. Miguel was 45 years old. He had $52 million in the bank. He had gone from poverty to genuine wealth. The house he lived in San Carlos was worth $2 million and was paid off. The family cars totaled $120,000. He had investments that generated passive income of $150,000 per month. The kids studied at private school and would have college paid without problems. Rosa had finished her degree in business administration and was now doing an MBA at Stanford. But more important than the money were the lessons Miguel had learned. He had learned that business is built with work, not shortcuts. He had learned that satisfied clients are worth more than 1,000 advertisements. He had learned that a good team is everything. He had learned that professional management makes the difference between surviving and thriving. He had learned that crisis is opportunity when you're prepared. He had learned that growing without structure is a recipe for collapse. He had learned that partnership works when there's respect and aligned values. Today, 1 year after the sale, Miguel lives in a 5,000 square foot house in Atherton, one of the wealthiest zip codes in America. Daniel is at Stanford studying mechanical engineering, following in his father's footsteps. Isabella's in high school, wants to study business administration. Rosa coordinates a non-profit that offers free automotive training for youth from low-income communities, training 60 students per year. Miguel became an angel investor. He invests in small businesses of entrepreneurs who are starting out, offering not only capital but also mentorship. He has already invested in 19 companies. 5 closed, it's part of it. 7 are surviving, 7 are growing well. He doesn't do it for money. He does it because he likes helping people who are in the struggle, people who have dreams but no structure, people who are like he was one day. In interviews he occasionally gives at business schools and entrepreneurship events, Miguel always tells the same story. He started with $347 in a coffee can. He borrowed $8,000 from a community bank. He worked 14 hours a day for years. Was he lucky? Yes, he was. But he created opportunity for luck to appear. He persisted when everything said to quit. He learned when he didn't know. He risked when he was afraid. He invested in structure when he could have pocketed everything. He built instead of just surviving. The story of Miguel Hernandez is not a story of quick riches. It's a story of a decade of hard work, right decisions at difficult moments, long-term vision, business ethics, respect for people, and a dose of courage to risk when necessary. It's a story of genuine transformation, solid construction, lasting legacy. From the $347 of 2015 to the $52 million of 2024, it was 9 years of journey. 9 years that changed not only Miguel's life, but Rosa's life, the children's lives, Roberto's life, dozens of employees' lives, hundreds of clients who were well served, thousands of people who were somehow touched by this empire that started in poverty and ended in abundance. And it all started with a simple decision on a March morning. Try one more time. Don't give up. Build something. Create opportunity where it didn't exist. Turn difficulty into a stepping stone. Make it happen. End of narrative.